If you think Greek mythology is all about drama and lightning bolts, think again. Because tonight, I'm going to tell you the real, quiet, and strangely boring side of ancient Greek myths. And believe it or not, it starts not with war, but with nothing. Literally, nothing. Just a dark, silent void. And trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next. Hi there. Tonight, we're diving slowly into the world of Greek gods. But not in the way school textbooks do. No yelling Zeus, no bloody wars, just slow, calm stories about how the world began, why some gods were really bad at their jobs, and how one titan just wanted to take a nap. So, get comfortable. Let's begin with the origin of everything, chaos. The beginning of time, chaos and the first beings. Before there were gods, mountains, oceans, or even daylight, there was chaos. But chaos wasn't really chaos. Not how we imagine it. No fire. No sound. Just a big, yawning emptiness. Out of this sleepy nothingness, a few beings appeared. Without noise, without warning, and definitely without any excitement. The first was Gaia, the earth. She just sort of was. A flat, quiet stretch of land, resting in the silence. Then came Tartarus, the deep dark pit far below, and Eros, the very first feeling of desire, but not romantic, just the calm desire to grow. And then, somehow, Nyx, the night, showed up. She didn't say anything, she just was. Floating in the dark. Her brother was Erebus, the darkness of the underworld, who quietly stood beside her. That's how the first family reunion happened, without any light, talking, or drama. You'd think things would speed up from here. But not yet. Gaia gets lonely. Gaia, the earth, was flat. Peaceful. But lonely. So she made Uranus, the sky, to lie on top of her like a soft blanket. He didn't speak either, he just stretched across her. For a while, it was a quiet relationship. No arguments, no gifts. Just sky and earth, lying in silence. Together. Eventually, Gaia gave birth to mountains, oceans, and the first titans, giants with names like Oceanus, Hyperion, and Cronus. Uranus wasn't thrilled. He didn't like change. So instead of celebrating his children, he stuffed them back into Gaia. Yes, into her. Uncomfortable. A bit. But in this myth, that was just Tuesday. Gaia, being the patient type, didn't complain right away. But after a few hundred years of this, she asked for help. Cronus takes the lead. Of all her children, only Cronus agreed to do something. Not because he was brave, but because he was bored. Gaia handed him a sickle, yes, like the gardening tool, and told him to wait for the right moment. When Uranus floated down for another nap, Cronus struck. No yelling. No thunder. Just a clean cut, a soft groan, and then silence again. From that act, the world slowly changed. Sky and earth separated. Light crept in. And the reign of the Titans began. But Cronus wasn't much better than his father. In the next story, you'll meet Cronus again, this time as a paranoid dad who just can't stop swallowing his children. Yes, really. And wait until you hear what happens when Zeus, a very tiny baby, gets involved. It only gets weirder from here. So stay with me, this sleepy story has only just begun. Cronus had done it, he defeated Uranus, became ruler of the world, and finally had the throne all to himself. You'd think he'd be happy. But no. He was paranoid. Constantly looking over his shoulder. Why? Because someone whispered a little prophecy in his ear. One of your children will overthrow you. Now, if Cronus were a normal parent, maybe he'd have tried to raise kind, loving kids. But instead, he just ate them. Literally. Cronus and the baby buffet. Every time his wife, Rhea, gave birth, Cronus stood nearby with his mouth open like a seagull. First came Hestia, gone in one gulp. Then Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. No chewing. Just down the hatch. Rhea was horrified. But Cronus? He felt safe. Full. And smug. It was the ancient Greek version of preventative parenting. But when Rhea got pregnant with her sixth child, she decided to trick him. The birth of Zeus. On a quiet island called Crete, far from Cronus's reach, Rhea gave birth to Zeus. A tiny, wriggly god with a surprisingly large destiny. Instead of showing Cronus the baby, she handed him a swaddled rock. Now, Cronus may have ruled the cosmos, but he apparently couldn't tell the difference between a rock and a baby. He swallowed the stone, burped, and went back to brooding. Meanwhile, Zeus was raised in secret by nymphs in a peaceful cave, with goats for milk and bees for honey. Nothing dramatic. Just quiet growing. Zeus grows up. Years passed. Zeus grew taller, stronger, and more determined. And he didn't forget that his siblings were still trapped inside his father's stomach. Eventually, he returned, disguised as a cupbearer. He served Cronus a special potion. Not poisonous. Just, very effective. Moments later, Cronus began coughing. And then, vomiting. Out came Hestia, then Demeter, Hera, Hades, and finally Poseidon, all fully grown, all deeply annoyed. They dusted themselves off, formed a team, and declared war. Not a loud war. Not yet. But a slow, grinding battle between the Titans and the young Olympians was about to begin. The Titanomachy begins. The war lasted 10 whole years. But don't imagine constant action, this was more of a long, exhausting chess game. Mountains were thrown. Rivers shifted. But mostly, everyone stood around glaring and arguing about who's more divine. Eventually, Gaia, who always seemed to show up when things got stuck, told Zeus to go visit Tartarus and free the 100-handed ones. Yes, that's their actual name. These giant beings had 50 heads and 100 arms each. Not great conversationalists. But in a fight? Extremely helpful. With their help, the Olympians finally overpowered the Titans. Cronus and his allies were locked away in Tartarus, and Zeus finally took the throne. But peace didn't last long. Because now the gods themselves had to figure out how to share power. And, as you'll see in the next part, family dinners on Mount Olympus weren't exactly peaceful. With Cronus defeated and the Titans locked far below the earth, it was time for the Olympians to relax. Or so they thought. Because now came the hardest part of all, sharing power, and living together. On a mountain. Forever. Mount Olympus, home of the gods. The gods moved into a large, cloud-topped mansion called Mount Olympus, which had no elevators, no plumbing, and absolutely no privacy. Zeus took the throne and immediately claimed the title king of the gods, even though nobody voted. His brothers got the leftovers, Poseidon ruled the sea, and Hades was sent underground to manage the land of the dead, where he would never get visitors. Zeus was now in charge of everything from thunderstorms to mortal decisions. But being in charge didn't mean being wise. In fact, Zeus made some pretty questionable choices. Zeus gets married, sort of. Zeus fell in love with Hera, his sister. Yes, his sister. In Greek mythology, family trees are more like tangled vines. To win her over, Zeus transformed himself into a sad, soaking wet bird. Hera, being compassionate, took pity on him. And that's how their marriage began, with a trick. They eventually held a wedding on Olympus with ambrosia, nectar, and a lot of bored gods pretending to care. But married life didn't go smoothly. Hera was constantly suspicious, and Zeus was constantly giving her reasons to be. Aphrodite rises from the sea. Meanwhile, far away, something strange bubbled up from the ocean. From the foam of the sea, a fully grown goddess emerged. Her name was Aphrodite, the goddess of love, beauty, and awkward moments. She didn't have parents. She just appeared. Completely calm. Perfectly styled. No backstory required. When she arrived on Olympus, all the gods immediately fell in love with her. Zeus, hoping to avoid drama, quickly married her off to the least threatening god he knew. Hephaestus, the quiet builder. That god was Hephaestus, the blacksmith of Olympus. He wasn't glamorous. He limped when he walked, and he spent most of his time hammering things in a cave. He made weapons, thrones, jewelry, and oddly enough, a magical chair that trapped his mother Hera when she sat on it. Zeus had to beg Hephaestus to come to Olympus and release her. He only agreed when offered a wife, Aphrodite. They weren't exactly a match made in heaven. Hephaestus preferred molten iron. Aphrodite preferred mirrors. But like most things on Olympus, they just accepted it. Quietly. Unhappily. The calm before more myths. By now, Olympus had a full cast. Demeter, goddess of the harvest, who loved wheat. Artemis, the quiet hunter who avoided crowds. Apollo, who sang lullabies and shot arrows. Athena, who sprang from Zeus's head fully grown and armored, because, why not? And Hermes, the messenger, who never stopped talking. Every god had a domain. Every god had problems. But for a short moment, the mountain was peaceful. No wars. No rebellions. Just the quiet hum of immortality. But don't get too comfortable. Because in our next sleepy story, we'll dive into the underworld itself. And meet Hades, the god who just wanted people to stop blaming him for everything. Coming up next, the misunderstood world of the dead. When people think of the Greek underworld, they imagine fire, torture, and spooky shadows. But in reality, the Greek version of the afterlife was, mostly gray. Not terrifying. Just dull. Tonight, we visit Hades, the god of the underworld. A quiet figure who didn't cause much trouble. He didn't start wars. He didn't chase mortals. He just managed an infinite office full of spirits. And almost no one ever said thank you. Meet Hades. Hades, brother of Zeus and Poseidon, drew the short straw when they split the world. Zeus got the sky. Poseidon got the oceans. And Hades? He got everything underground. A kingdom of shadows, bones, and souls who never stopped talking. He built himself a palace in the underworld, with black marble walls and torches that never really burned bright. It was always twilight there. The kind of place where you'd yawn just by standing still. The rivers of the underworld. 5 rivers flowed through Hades's realm. And each had its own mood. Styx. The river of oaths. Cold. Silent. Untrustworthy. Even the gods swore on it, carefully. Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Drink it, and you forget your name, your past, even while you're standing knee-deep in water. Acheron, the river of pain, though it felt more like a gloomy fairy ride. Phlegethon, a river of fire. Sounds exciting, but mostly it just hissed and bubbled quietly. Cocytus, the river of wailing. But instead of screams, it sounded more like distant, muffled sighs. Despite the names, none of the rivers moved very fast. Just slow, endless trickles, like time itself had gotten tired. Persephone and the pomegranate. Hades lived alone for centuries. Until he saw Persephone, daughter of Demeter. She liked flowers. He liked caves. A perfect mismatch. Depending on who tells the story, Hades either abducted her or just invited her over and forgot to let her leave. Demeter was not pleased. She stopped the crops, turned the land to dust, and refused to negotiate. Zeus, seeing that humanity was starving, stepped in. Persephone was allowed to return to the surface, but only if she hadn't eaten anything in the underworld. She had just 6 seeds from a pomegranate. That sealed her fate, 6 months above, 6 months below. Spring and summer when she returns. Fall and winter when she leaves. A very slow, seasonal custody arrangement. The afterlife isn't scary. Just boring. Most souls who entered the underworld weren't punished. They weren't evil. Just ordinary. They wandered the fields of asphodel, where the grass never grew tall and the sky was always gray. There was no music. No parties. Just an endless nap with your own memories. Only a few were sent to Tartarus, the prison of the damned. And even there, the punishments felt more symbolic than painful. One guy rolled a rock. Another couldn't reach water. Not fun. But not exactly a horror movie either. So why does Hades get such a bad reputation? He didn't kill people. He didn't torment them. He just managed the paperwork. In fact, he may be the most responsible god on Olympus. He kept order, followed the rules, and rarely interfered. Which, in Greek mythology, makes him a hero in his own way. Coming next. We leave the land of the dead behind. And climb back up to explore the quiet failures of some very unqualified gods, like Dionysus, the wine god who just wanted to throw a never-ending party. You won't believe how sleepy chaos can be. By now, you've met gods who ruled the sky, the sea, and the land of the dead. But what about the god who ruled parties, wine, and awkward social energy? Tonight, we meet Dionysus, the last Olympian to join the team. And unlike his siblings, he didn't want power. He just wanted everyone to relax. But in true Greek fashion, even his story is filled with quiet confusion, delayed drama, and wine-soaked naps. The birth of Dionysus. Dionysus didn't arrive the usual way. His mother, Semele, was a mortal woman, kind, gentle, and deeply curious. She fell in love with Zeus. Not realizing, of course, that Zeus was allergic to honesty. When she asked to see his true divine form, Zeus warned her. But she insisted. So he showed her, and she instantly burned to ash. That could have been the end of it. But Zeus, in one of his rare responsible moments, saved the unborn baby by sewing him into his own thigh. Yes. His thigh. Months later, Dionysus was born, quietly, and without much fanfare. A second birth from Zeus's leg. The god of wine had already made a strange entrance. A god without a home. The other Olympians weren't thrilled. Dionysus didn't fit the mold. He wandered through forests instead of palaces. His followers were satyrs and nymphs, not warriors or kings. And instead of thunderbolts or tridents, he carried a pine cone on a stick. Everywhere he went, people either ignored him, or panicked. Some laughed. Some fainted. And some just got sleepy. But Dionysus didn't mind. He moved from city to city, slowly teaching mortals how to make wine, how to let go, and how to nap in a field without shame. The king who said no. In one town, a king named Pentheus banned Dionysus's parties. He didn't like laughter. Or dancing. Or the sound of flutes. Dionysus, being very non-confrontational, disguised himself as a soft-spoken stranger and gently suggested the king relax. Pentheus refused. So Dionysus quietly invited everyone else in the city into the woods. They drank wine. They danced. They ignored schedules. Eventually, the king followed to spy. But in his confusion, he dressed as a woman, climbed a tree, and was mistaken for a wild animal by the crowd. It didn't end well for him. Still, the story wasn't loud. Just strange. A soft warning: don't underestimate wine or introverts. Joining Olympus. After years of wandering, Dionysus finally received an invitation to Mount Olympus. Not because he demanded it, but because even the gods needed a break sometimes. And Dionysus brought something none of them had. A calm reminder to let go. He became the 12th Olympian, replacing Hestia, the goddess of the hearth, who stepped down peacefully, perhaps to enjoy some wine herself. Now, Dionysus sits among gods of war and wisdom, quietly sipping from his goblet. He doesn't start arguments. He doesn't judge. He just watches the chaos, and smiles. By now, you've met the loud gods, the quiet gods, and the ones who just wanted to be left alone. But Greek mythology isn't just about immortals. Sometimes, it's about mortals who never asked for attention, but ended up in the sky, on scrolls, and in very slow-moving stories. Tonight, we'll meet heroes who weren't always brave, gods who quietly quit their jobs, and one mortal who just wanted to go home, very slowly. The hero who didn't want to be one. Let's start with Orion, a hunter who didn't do much hunting. He wandered the earth looking for meaning, love, and occasionally wild boars. He claimed to be the greatest hunter in the world. But no one asked him to prove it. Eventually, he offended Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, by talking too much. Some say she liked him. Others say she shot him with an arrow. Either way, he ended up as a constellation, stuck in the sky, mid-step, forever. A quiet ending for someone who thought he was born for glory. The god who resigned. Then there was Hestia, goddess of the hearth. You might remember her from earlier. She was gentle, peaceful, and deeply uninterested in drama. She lit the fires of Olympus and made sure the tea stayed warm. But one day, after centuries of watching arguments, love triangles, and thunderbolt flinging, she simply stepped down. She gave her throne to Dionysus and walked away. No speeches. No lightning. Just a quiet exit. She's rarely mentioned in myths, because she didn't cause problems. But in the stillness of the home, she was always there. And then, she wasn't. The sleepy sailor, Odysseus. Now let's talk about Odysseus, a man who really just wanted to sleep in his own bed. After fighting in the Trojan War for 10 years, all he wanted was a short boat ride home. Instead, he got a 10-year delay. He didn't lose battles, he lost time. One island made him nap for 7 years with a nymph named Calypso. Another made him forget everything after eating lotus flowers. And don't get us started on the Cyclops, who talked too slowly to be truly scary. Odysseus wasn't a loud hero. He was a tired one. The stars above. Many mortals in Greek myths ended up in the sky. Not as a reward, but as a way to stop the story. Callisto, a woman turned into a bear, now floats as the Ursa Major constellation. Phaeton, who borrowed the sun chariot and immediately crashed it, became a streak of stars. Cassiopeia, who bragged too much, was placed in a throne-shaped group of stars, upside down, as punishment. The night sky became a resting place for stories no one wanted to retell. Soft reminders of people who tried, failed, and floated off into stillness. Greek mythology was never just about action. It was about patience, mistakes, and long pauses. Gods who waited centuries. Heroes who wandered in circles. And quiet endings that whispered rather than roared. And now, you've heard 6 sleepy stories from the world of Greek myth. Strange, slow, and surprisingly peaceful. Thank you for listening. And maybe, just maybe, you're ready to rest, too. Even in a world filled with lightning, monsters, and immortal drama, some gods were simply forgotten. They didn't start wars. They didn't marry their siblings. They just quietly faded from memory. Tonight, we'll gently open the dusty pages of mythology to meet the gods you probably never heard of. Not because they weren't important, but because they didn't make much noise. Hygeia, the goddess of clean. Let's begin with Hygeia, the goddess of health, cleanliness, and basic hygiene. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't fly through the sky or turn mortals into animals. Instead, she encouraged people to wash their hands. Hygeia was the daughter of Asclepius, the god of medicine. While her father performed mythical surgeries and cured diseases, she gently reminded mortals to bathe. No epic tales. No tragic love stories. Just soap, water, and good advice. But in a world obsessed with chaos, Hygeia was too calm to become famous. Thanatos, the god of peaceful death. Then there was Thanatos. Not to be confused with Hades. While Hades ruled the entire underworld, Thanatos simply showed up when it was time. He didn't carry a weapon. He didn't chase people. He just arrived, gently, when the end came, like a soft exhale. He was often mistaken for something worse, because no one liked to talk about him. But Thanatos wasn't cruel. He didn't judge. He didn't punish. He simply offered rest. In some myths, people escaped him. In others, they just went quietly. But rarely did anyone thank him. Hecate, goddess of crossroads. In the dim hours between midnight and dawn, Hecate stood where paths met. She didn't command the stars or the sea, she guided those in between. She held torches, keys, and the silence of decisions. People whispered her name at boundaries, between life and death, light and shadow, beginning and end. Not a goddess of action, but of pause. She ruled moments of hesitation. You'd never see her at a feast or wedding. But if you stood alone at a crossroads, unsure where to go, she might be watching. The fate of worship. Over time, mortals stopped leaving offerings. Temples emptied. Altars crumbled. The gods were no longer feared. Or loved. Just, remembered vaguely, in poems and faded statues. Some gods raged. Others disappeared without a sound. And a few, like Hestia and Thanatos, simply stepped into the background. Because belief doesn't end with a bang. It fades like candlelight, softly, slowly, one flicker at a time. But their stories linger. Not in temples, but in dreams. Not in prayers, but in bedtime tales like this one. And as you drift off tonight, perhaps you'll carry a piece of them with you. The quiet gods. The patient ones. The forgotten immortals who never asked for fame. Next, a final story from the edge of Greek myth, about a dream god who walked through sleep itself, shaping what mortals saw behind their closed eyes. One last journey before silence, long before sleep apps and alarm clocks, the ancient Greeks believed that dreams came from a place far beyond the clouds. A realm not of gods or mortals, but something softer. Slower. A quiet kingdom hidden behind the lids of tired eyes. At its center moved Morpheus, the god of dreams. He didn't carry a sword. He didn't ride a chariot. He floated through minds, gently shaping what people saw when they finally let go. The house of sleep. Morpheus lived in a cavern deep beneath the earth. No doors. No clocks. No noise. The entrance was surrounded by poppies and soft moss. The air was still. The shadows moved like whispers. Inside, his father Hypnos, the god of sleep, lay stretched across a bed of feathers. Even the gods avoided waking him. This wasn't a place of thunder or war, it was where the world rested. Where kings dreamed of crowns, farmers dreamed of rain, and even the gods let their worries dissolve for a little while. Morpheus at work. Morpheus never shouted. He never woke anyone up. He slipped through the air like a breath, gently molding dreams into forms. He didn't create new ideas. He borrowed from memories. A mother's voice, long gone. The creak of a childhood chair. The scent of warm bread on a winter morning. The ocean, just before the storm. He rarely appeared himself. But if he did, he took human form. Familiar. Comforting. He didn't explain things, he showed them. And when the dream ended, most forgot he was ever there. Dreams as messages. In some myths, dreams were more than comfort, they were warnings. The Greeks believed there were two gates through which dreams passed. One of ivory, for dreams that were false. One of horn, for dreams that carried truth. But how could anyone know the difference? That was part of Morpheus's design. He didn't label his creations. He simply delivered them, quietly, then left before morning. Some kings changed their lives because of him. Others ignored the signs. And some, just dreamed of walking through a forest that never ended. The end of the story. Unlike the other gods, Morpheus didn't ask for temples. He didn't demand loyalty. He came to everyone, young, old, rich, poor. He was patient. And when belief in the gods faded, he remained. Because long after temples fell and statues crumbled, people still dreamed. They still closed their eyes. And somewhere, in the soft dark, he still moved. So now, as you lie in bed, somewhere between memory and imagination, maybe he's already nearby. Shaping a quiet world just for you. No monsters. No thunder. Just slow steps, warm shadows, and stories that gently blur. Thank you for listening. And may your dreams tonight be soft. Some stories end with a battle. Others with a wedding. But Greek mythology often ends with silence. Not because nothing happens, but because even the gods grow tired. Tonight, we'll close our journey not with action, but with stillness. A soft curtain falling over Olympus, the underworld, the stars, and the spaces between dreams. Because even myths need to rest. The still Olympus. Mount Olympus, once full of lightning and rivalry, quieted over time. Zeus stopped shouting. Hera stopped chasing. Apollo, god of music, played only for himself now, soft melodies the wind barely carried. Even Ares, god of war, found fewer places to fight. He wandered fields of wild grass instead, swinging his sword at nothing. And Artemis disappeared into the forest she loved, never needing to return. The mountain didn't fall. It simply faded from memory, each god becoming a name, then a shadow, then a pause. The forgotten altars. Across the ancient world, temples once rang with prayers. But slowly, the fires went out. Offerings turned to dust. Statues cracked under the weight of time and rain. But the gods didn't rage. They didn't beg to be remembered. They just waited. Quietly. As people moved on. Some believed in other gods. Some believed in none. And some simply forgot. The echoes that remain. Still, not all vanished. You still see Athena in libraries. Hermes in symbols for travelers. Demeter in every loaf of bread. The gods became metaphors. Ideas. A quiet voice at the edge of reason. Children read their stories in dusty books. Artists painted them. Poets whispered about them in candlelight. And sometimes, a dream would carry a strange figure. One with wings, or a golden lyre, or a crown made of leaves. Familiar. But unnamed. Greek mythology is full of gods you've never heard of. Not because they were unimportant. But because their stories are soft whispers in the vast mythological library. Tonight, let's meet a few more quiet gods who didn't seek thunder or fame. But whose gentle roles kept the world turning. Irene, the goddess of peace. Irene, daughter of Zeus and Themis, was the goddess of peace and tranquility. She didn't command armies. She didn't throw lightning bolts. Instead, she carried a cornucopia, a symbol of plenty, and a torch that lit calm evenings. Her presence was subtle, a warm breeze after a storm, reminding mortals to rest and rebuild. Temples dedicated to her were peaceful gardens, places to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and forget conflict. Her followers didn't need to shout. They just needed to be still. Nike, the silent victory. Nike, goddess of victory, often appears in stories as a winged figure flying above battlefields. But she rarely fought. Instead, she simply appeared. A quiet symbol that a contest was over. Her wings made no sound. Her arrival meant the end of struggle. Though celebrated by warriors, Nike's true power was patience. Waiting for effort to conclude, then gently nodding at success or failure. Harmonia, the calm between storms. Harmonia was the goddess of harmony and concord. Born from the union of Ares and Aphrodite, she embodied balance. The quiet moment when opposing forces pause and breathe together. Her stories rarely included battles or drama. Instead, she was the gentle thread weaving chaos into order. Her wedding, strangely calm, was a rare moment of peace among the gods. But even that peace was fragile. The slow fade of the old ways. As mortals built cities and new gods rose, these gentle figures became quieter still. Their temples were fewer, their stories shorter. But their roles endured. In quiet moments before sleep, in calm after storms, in small acts of kindness. Greek mythology wasn't only thunder and fire. It was also these soft spaces, where peace, victory, and harmony rested. So as you close your eyes tonight, perhaps you'll feel the calm wings of Nike, the warm light of Irene, or the delicate balance of Harmonia. Quiet gods watching, waiting, softly weaving their stories into your dreams. If you want, I can continue with even more forgotten deities, or shift focus to minor spirits, muses, or ancient rituals connected to sleep and dreams. Just say the word. Greek myths are not only about great gods and mighty heroes. They are also filled with small, quiet spirits, minor gods who hardly ever make headlines. These gentle beings govern tiny corners of the world, working silently to keep life balanced. Tonight, let's meet a few of them. The Ori, keepers of seasons. The Ori were three goddesses who controlled the changing of the seasons. Their names were Eunomia, good order, Dike, justice, and Irene, peace. They didn't wage wars or throw thunderbolts. Instead, they quietly regulated the natural order, making sure winter followed autumn and spring came after winter. They taught mortals when to plant and harvest, when to rest and when to work. Their presence was steady, like the slow turning of a wheel. Without their guidance, life on earth would be chaotic and unpredictable. The Anemoi, gentle winds. The Anemoi were the gods of the winds, each governing a different direction. Boreas, the north wind, brought cold air. Zephyrus, the west wind, brought gentle breezes and the scent of flowers. Notus, the south wind, was warm and humid. Eurus, the east wind, was unpredictable and quiet. These wind gods rarely spoke or acted loudly. They moved softly through the trees, whispered across the seas, and cooled the earth with their breath. Though their power could be fierce during storms, most days they were gentle and unnoticed. The Muses, quiet inspiration. The Muses were 9 sisters who inspired artists, poets, and musicians. They didn't force anyone to create. They only whispered ideas to those who listened. Each muse had a specialty, from history to dance to astronomy, but all worked silently behind the scenes. When a poet found just the right words, or a painter captured a fleeting moment, it was the muse's gentle touch at work. Not loud or dramatic, but essential. Invisible hands of the world. These minor spirits didn't seek glory. They didn't command armies or demand worship. They simply maintained the quiet rhythms of life. The turning of seasons, the shifting of winds, the spark of inspiration. Greek mythology is as much about these small, steady forces as it is about the great gods and heroes. And often, it's in their silence that the world keeps turning. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, remember the Ori guiding the year, the soft anemoi stirring the air, and the muses whispering in your dreams. Their quiet presence surrounds you. Unseen, unheard, but always there. Ready for more? I can continue exploring gentle spirits, or move toward myths about heroes who preferred peace, or even ancient Greek ideas about rest and healing. Just say the word. Greek mythology is full of heroes who shouted, battled monsters, and sought glory. But some heroes preferred quiet. They didn't rush into wars or quests. Instead, they lived slow, thoughtful lives. Tonight, we meet some of these gentle legends. Psyche, the woman who waited. Psyche's story isn't about battles or magic weapons. It's about patience, trust, and slow love. She was so beautiful that even gods took notice, but her true journey began when she married a mysterious husband she never saw. Psyche waited years, facing trials not with swords but with steady heart and calm resolve. She crossed rivers, climbed mountains, and solved puzzles, always quietly hoping for peace. Her story teaches that sometimes, the greatest strength is the one found in waiting. Ariadne, the thread keeper. Ariadne didn't fight the Minotaur herself. Instead, she gave Theseus a simple thread to find his way out of the labyrinth. She didn't seek glory but helped quietly from the sidelines. Her gift was guidance, the kind that saves lives without fanfare. Afterward, her own story gently fades into the background, a quiet hero forgotten by many. Baucis and Philemon, the humble hosts. Unlike heroes who chased fame, Baucis and Philemon lived simple lives. One day, strangers knocked at their door, gods disguised as travelers. They offered what little they had, a warm meal and a place to rest. Because of their kindness, the gods rewarded them, not with battles or riches, but by turning their humble home into a temple. And when their time came, they were transformed into two intertwined trees, standing quietly together forever. Slow legends for restful nights. Not all heroes need to fight dragons or storm castles. Some show us that quiet kindness, patience, and gentle support are just as powerful. In Greek myth, these slow legends remind us that peace can be heroic, too. So as you settle in tonight, remember Psyche's patience, Ariadne's thoughtful guidance, and Baucis and Philemon's humble hospitality. Their stories are soft echoes in the loud myths of gods and war. Sleep and healing were deeply connected in ancient Greece. People didn't just rest, they believed sleep was a bridge to the divine, a time when gods whispered secrets, and the body mended itself. Tonight, let's explore these gentle beliefs and quiet rituals. The temples of Asclepius. Asclepius, god of medicine, wasn't just about potions and herbs. His temples were peaceful places called Asclepia, quiet sanctuaries where the sick came to rest. Patients slept there, hoping for healing dreams sent by the gods. These dreams often included mysterious symbols or gentle instructions. Doctors interpreted them carefully, using the quiet messages to guide treatment. Healing was slow, thoughtful, and wrapped in calm belief. The practice of incubation. The process of sleeping in a temple to receive divine guidance was called incubation. People would lie down on soft beds, surrounded by olive branches and flickering oil lamps. Then, they waited, quietly and patiently, for the god's message in dreams. Sometimes the dreams were confusing. Other times, they brought relief, comfort, or a new way to understand pain. Sleep as a gift and a mystery. The Greeks believed sleep was a gift from the gods Hypnos and Morpheus. Without it, the mind would wander in darkness. With it, the soul could rest and renew. Dreams were mysterious but meaningful, sometimes warnings, sometimes blessings. The line between waking and sleeping was thin, and the gods often used that thinness to speak softly to mortals. Quiet rituals before rest. Before sleep, people might offer small gifts, olive oil, honey, or fresh water, to the gods. They believed these acts invited peaceful rest and sweet dreams. Even now, such simple rituals remind us that sleep is more than just closing our eyes, it's a sacred time to heal. The night sky held a special place in Greek myth. It was not only a blanket of darkness but a realm where gods and spirits moved softly, watching over mortals as they slept. Tonight, we look at those quiet figures who ruled the night and stars. Nyx, the goddess of night. Nyx was one of the oldest gods, a shadowy figure wrapped in black velvet. She didn't speak much. Instead, she drifted silently across the sky, bringing darkness and rest. Not frightening, but soothing, like a slow breath after a long day. Her children included sleep, hypnos, and death, thanatos, two quiet forces that followed her closely. Nyx's power was in stillness, she ruled the night without noise or fuss. Selene, the gentle moon. Selene was the goddess of the moon, softly lighting the night. She drove her silver chariot across the sky, trailing calm light on sleeping fields and quiet seas. Selene didn't roar or flash like the sun. She was a gentle presence, steady and predictable. A silent guide through darkness. Her pale glow was thought to soothe restless minds and guard dreams. Eos, the dawn. Before the sun rose, Eos stretched across the horizon. She wasn't loud or sudden. Her arrival was slow, gentle, an early yawn from the world. Eos painted the sky in soft pinks and purples, signaling the day's quiet beginning. Though less known than the sun god Helios, she was the first light in every morning, a soft promise of a new start. The stars, stories in the sky. The Greeks saw the stars as ancient stories fixed in place. Constellations like Orion, Cassiopeia, and Perseus were reminders of heroes and gods. But also of endings and rest. Each star twinkled softly, telling tales without words. They watched silently as the world slept beneath them. The night, the moon, and the stars were not just parts of nature, they were a quiet chorus of gods and spirits, lulling the world to sleep with their soft presence. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine Nyx's dark cloak, Selene's silver light, and Eos's gentle brush of dawn. May they watch over your dreams and bring you peaceful rest. While gods ruled the sky and stars, many mortal stories were also wrapped in night's quiet embrace. Some mortals found themselves drawn into myths by their connection to darkness, dreams, and sleep. Tonight, let's explore a few of these gentle mortal tales. Endymion, the eternal sleeper. Endymion was a handsome shepherd blessed, or perhaps cursed, with eternal sleep. The moon goddess Selene loved him so much she asked Zeus to grant him endless rest so his beauty would never fade. He sleeps forever in a cave, untouched by time, forever peaceful. His story isn't about battles or glory, but quiet love and timeless rest. A gentle reminder that sometimes, sleep is the greatest gift. Alcyone and Ceyx, lovers turned birds. Alcyone and Ceyx were a devoted couple whose story ended softly rather than loudly. When Ceyx was lost at sea, Alcyone mourned deeply. The gods, moved by her sorrow, transformed them both into kingfishers, birds known for calm, gentle flight over water. Their tale is often told to remind us of love's quiet endurance, even through loss. The sleep of the Danaids. The Danaids were 50 sisters condemned to fill leaky jars as punishment for a crime. Though their fate was endless toil, their story fades into silence. They symbolize slow, repetitive labor. A myth that whispers rather than shouts. Their endless, quiet punishment contrasts with the loud adventures of other heroes. Night's soft lessons. These mortal stories teach us about patience, peace, and the gentle power of rest. Greek myths often celebrate action and strength, but these tales remind us that stillness and sleep have their own quiet importance. So as you prepare for rest tonight, think of Endymion's eternal sleep, Alcyone's calm flight, and the Danaids' quiet toil. All part of the slow, soft myth of night. Before going to bed, some Greeks made small offerings to gods and spirits. A drop of honey, a handful of barley, or a sprinkle of water might be left on the doorstep or near the hearth. These quiet gifts invited the gods' favor, asking for safe sleep and sweet dreams. Such rituals weren't loud or flashy, they were humble acts of hope and faith. Prayers to Hypnos and Morpheus. People often whispered prayers to Hypnos and Morpheus before sleep. They asked for rest, calm dreams, and protection from nightmares. Hypnos was believed to gently wrap mortals in a soft cloak of sleep, while Morpheus shaped their dreams into peaceful stories. These prayers were personal moments, often said silently, felt deeply, but barely spoken aloud. Sleep as a bridge. Sleep was more than rest, it was a bridge to the divine. During sleep, mortals might receive guidance, warnings, or healing. The night was a time when the mortal and immortal worlds grew close, connected by soft shadows and quiet breath. So tonight, as you prepare for sleep, imagine the soft lullabies sung long ago, the gentle prayers whispered in the dark, and the humble gifts offered to unseen gods. May your rest be deep and your dreams peaceful. In ancient Greece, healing was more than medicine. It was a quiet art, a sacred gift given by gods who worked slowly and gently. Tonight, we meet the gods who helped mortals mend. Not through battles, but through calm care. Asclepius, the gentle healer. Asclepius was the god of medicine, often pictured holding a staff wrapped with a serpent. He didn't rush cures or demand praise. Instead, he guided doctors and patients through slow, thoughtful healing. His temples were quiet places where people came to rest, sleep, and hope for dreams that showed the way to health. The process was gentle, more about patience and trust than magic. Panacea, the goddess of universal remedy. Panacea, daughter of Asclepius, was the goddess who embodied healing for all ailments. Her gift was subtle, a soft touch that soothed pain and mended wounds over time. Though not often in the spotlight, Panacea reminded mortals that healing is a slow journey. Not always instant, but steady and sure. Hygeia, the spirit of cleanliness. Hygeia, another daughter of Asclepius, was the goddess of health and hygiene. She urged mortals to keep their bodies and homes clean. A quiet, everyday way to prevent illness. Her role was simple but vital, reminding us that sometimes the smallest acts keep us well. Healing beyond the body. Greek healing gods cared for the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. They taught that rest, sleep, and calm were as important as herbs and potions. Healing was not a race but a slow, steady walk toward balance and peace. Tonight, as you rest, imagine the gentle touch of these gods. Their quiet care wrapping around you like a soft blanket. May your body and mind find their own path to healing in the stillness of sleep. Ancient Greeks didn't just rest quietly on their own. They celebrated slow, peaceful festivals honoring gods of healing, sleep, and nature's calm cycles. Tonight, we explore these gentle rituals that marked rest and renewal. The Eleusinian Mysteries. One of the oldest and most secret festivals, the Eleusinian Mysteries honored Demeter and Persephone, goddesses of the harvest and the seasons. Held each year in a quiet town called Eleusis, the festival marked the slow cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Participants walked in processions, shared simple meals, and listened to sacred stories. The mood was calm and reflective, not noisy or wild. The mysteries symbolized the earth's slow rest in winter, followed by renewal in spring, a natural rhythm echoed in human life. The Thesmophoria. This festival, dedicated to Demeter and Persephone as well, was celebrated by women in rural areas. It was a time of fasting, quiet prayer, and gentle rituals to honor fertility and renewal. Women shared stories and songs that connected them with the earth's slow cycles. The festival lasted several days, encouraging patience and reflection. Festivals of Asclepius. Temples to Asclepius held healing festivals with peaceful ceremonies. People came to seek health and rest, participating in silent prayers and offerings. The focus was on renewal, not only of the body but also of spirit. Healing rituals often involved music, soft lights, and a calm atmosphere to encourage recovery. Rhythms in life and myth. Greek life moved with the seasons and festivals, times for action balanced by times for rest. These slow rhythms reminded mortals that life is a balance of effort and calm. The gods watched these cycles, encouraging mortals to honor the quiet moments. As you drift to sleep tonight, imagine yourself part of these gentle festivals. Walking slowly, breathing deeply, surrounded by soft voices and the promise of renewal. Greek mythology isn't only gods and heroes. It's also the quiet minds who thought deeply, poets and philosophers whose slow reflections shaped much of what we know today. Tonight, we explore these gentle thinkers. Hesiod, the poet of work and rest. Hesiod wrote about gods and humans, but also about the balance between work and rest. In his poem Works and Days, he advised mortals to work hard but also to honor times of rest and festivals. He believed life had a natural rhythm, periods of effort followed by calm. His words remind us that even in myth, balance is key. Sappho, the soft voice of love. Sappho's poetry is quiet and personal. She wrote gentle verses about love, longing, and the beauty of simple moments. Unlike loud tales of war, her poems feel like soft whispers shared in the dark. Her work shows that even in ancient times, quiet emotions mattered deeply. Philosophers and sleep. Philosophers like Plato and Aristotle thought about sleep as a vital part of life. They believed sleep refreshed the soul and mind, allowing people to think clearly and live wisely. For them, sleep was a natural pause, an essential part of learning and growth. Their ideas encouraged slowing down, embracing rest as part of the human experience. Quiet minds in a loud world. These poets and philosophers didn't seek fame with thunderous actions. They shaped their world with thought and words, inviting mortals to listen and reflect. Their legacy is gentle, asking us to find peace not only in sleep but in slow, steady contemplation. As you lie down tonight, remember their soft voices. The poet who sang of rest, the philosopher who honored sleep, and the quiet wisdom that still speaks across time. Every story must come to an end. Even the loudest myths slow down eventually, fading into peace. Tonight, we finish our journey with quiet tales of closure, calm, and gentle farewells. Irene, the spirit of peace. Irene, goddess of peace, was the gentle calm after storms and wars. She didn't roar or thunder. She brought quiet moments when people could breathe again, rebuild, and rest. Her presence was soft like a lullaby, wrapping the world in stillness. Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. The river Lethe flowed through the underworld, its waters causing forgetfulness. Souls drank from Lethe to leave behind pain and memory before rebirth. This forgetting was not cruel, but a kind mercy. A way to start anew, peacefully and without burden. Charon's quiet ferry. Charon, the ferryman of the dead, silently carried souls across the river Styx. He didn't judge or speak. He simply moved them from one realm to the next, a calm guide through transition. The end as a beginning. Greek myths remind us that endings are gentle, necessary pauses. Peace and forgetting are part of life's slow rhythm. Not to fear, but to accept with quiet grace. As our gentle journey through the world of Greek myths comes to a close, let's pause in the quiet spaces between stories, where soft whispers and fading echoes remain. Tonight, we say goodbye, not with thunder or clamor, but with calm and grace. Whispers in the wind. The gods and heroes we met were once voices carried on the wind. Tales told by flickering firelight and soft voices in the night. Though time has passed, their stories linger quietly, like leaves resting on still water. They don't demand attention. They don't clamor for fame. They simply wait, patiently, for each new listener to hear their soft song. Myth as a gentle thread. Greek mythology is not just about battles or grand feats. It's a gentle thread woven through human experience, reminding us of balance, patience, and the slow rhythms of life. It asks us to listen quietly, to find peace in stories told softly, and to rest with the gods in their calm. A final blessing. May your dreams tonight be filled with soft light and gentle shadows. May you rest deeply, free from worry or noise. And may the slow, steady heartbeat of myth guide you into peaceful sleep. Thank you for listening. Thank you for resting with these old stories. And may you carry their quiet wisdom into your waking hours. Good night.